Hey everyone, today we are working in our Unit 3A notes packet and we are talking about two things, slope and also collinearity. So first we're going to talk about that word collinearity, and to start we're going to talk about words that have the prefix or that start with CO. They have the prefix of CO. So one example might be you are the co-president of a club. That means there are two presidents that together run the club. Another example of a word with co might be co-worker. Those are two people that work together doing the same thing. Here at Framingham, sometimes you might have classes that have co-teachers, and co-teachers work together to teach the same class. You also might see the word cooperate. And cooperate means that you work together with someone else just to do something, the same thing, the same job. So to define collinearity right here, we're going to say that points are collinear when they are together on the same line. And that line has to be the line means that it is straight. It could be diagonal, horizontal, vertical. It just means that the points are together on a single line. So these examples, just to exemplify our point, the first example, these points are not collinear. They're not collinear because if I wanted to connect them, I would have to draw three separate lines. They are not all together on the same line. These points over here to the right are collinear because they lie on the same line. If you connect them, I don't have a ruler, but I'm going to try my best. If you connect them, my line's kind of crooked, they fall on the same line. Alright, so our next topic in example 1 is how to start with points. Our 2 points we're starting with are -1, 2, and 2, 0, and find other points that are collinear. So the first thing we're going to do is plot these points that we're starting with. So I'm going to go to my graph and plot -1, 2, and 2, 0. So there's my two starting points. And now I'm supposed to find points that are collinear with these points. So if you look at the 2 points, if you connected them with a line, I'm not going to do that yet, but you can see that that line would extend up and to the left and also down and to the right. So we're going to talk about how to find points that would be on that line if we connected them. And the way that we do that is we use a pattern that is called the slope of the line. And slope means how steep it is and in what direction it's going. So to find the slope, we are going to zoom in again to our points, and we are going to look at how to get from one point to the other. So I'm going to just pick the top left point. Doesn't matter. I'm going to pick that point, and I'm going to think about how I get down to the bottom right point. And to do that, I go down, 2, and to the right, 3. That concept is called the slope of the line, down 2 to the right 3. So how we write that pattern is like this. We always put the up and down on the top. That's the rise. So our rise was down 2. And we always put the right and left on the bottom. That's called the run. So our run, remember, was right 3. So this is the pattern that we see in this example. I'm going to write it here, fill in the blank. Do that. Down 2 to the right 3. And right beside it, I'm going to actually write the word. Down 2, right 3. And why that pattern helps us is because if we go back to our graph and we use that pattern, we can find more points. So I'm going to put my pencil on this point I left off at, and I'm going to again go down 2 and right 3. And you'll see I can even draw my arrows. Down 2, right 3. I end up right there. That's another point. Plot that point. It's actually at 5, -2. Then I'm going to go down 2 and right 3 again. And there's another point. It looks like it is at 8, -4. And then again I'm going to go down 2 and right 3. And I'm going to end up right here. So I actually just found 1, 2, 3 points that are collinear. But we're going to talk a little bit more about how our slope could have been used the other way. What if I wanted to find points in this direction? And to do that, we are going to write our slope a different way. So I'm going to go back to my 2 original points. And I started at the top left and went down to right 3. What if I started at the bottom right? If I started at the bottom right, I would go up 2 and left 3. And if I continued that pattern, it would again go up 2 and left 3, and I would have a point right here. And up 2 and left 3 again, and I would have a point right there. Up 2, left 3, and right there. So now I have really made points in both directions. And if I wanted to, I could connect those points all with the same line. And that line would continue forever. If I had a bigger graph, I could plot more. So what we're going to do right here is that slope that I just found in blue, that's another way of writing the same slope I originally found. So in the space below it says, you can also write this pattern in other ways. And the other way that we can write this pattern is we could, instead of going down 2, up 3, we could go up 2 and to the left 3. Up 2 and the left 3. And those both mean the same exact thing. They both got us collinear points. All right, so down here it talks about what direction this line is going. And so our line, if you followed it, imagine if you were walking along this line, if you were a person, here's a little person, you would be going downhill. You are decreasing. So we're going to write, since this line is decreasing or going down from left to right, we say the slope is negative. And we actually write the slope like this. Remember, I'm going to go back to my original slope. My original slope was down to right 3. I actually write that slope as negative 2 over 3, since my slope is decreasing. And remember the other way we wrote our slope. The other way we wrote our slope was up 2, left 3. So the negative symbol could also be at the bottom. It doesn't matter, as long as you have a negative symbol. So I could write or here, you could write it either or. And there's also another way to write this. You could put the negative out front and just call it negative 2 over 3. So we have 3 ways to write the slope here. All right, on to example 2. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're only starting with 1 point this time, negative 3, 1. So I'm going to plot negative 3, 1, right where it belongs. And I'm going to use the slope pattern right here to find more points on this line. So my slope pattern has a down arrow and a 2. So that means down 2 and left 4. So I'm going to use this pattern to find more points. Let's do that first. I'm going to go over to my graph and use the pattern down 2, left 4. So here's my graph, start at my point, and I'm going to go down 2 units, to the left 1, 2, 3, 4 units. I end up right here at negative 7, negative 1. Then I'm going to do that again, down 2, left 1, 2, 3, 4. So we should have 2 points there. Now our directions just said find more points on the line. So instead of going down 2, left 4, let's think about how to go in the other direction again, like we did last time. To go in the other direction, I'm actually going to go up 2 and to the right 4. And I'm going to continue that pattern. Up 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, right 4. I'm going to make that black. Up 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, right 4. Up 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, right 4. And now, if I connect those, I have found a lot of points, all on the same line. I started with just this one, and I found all those other points. So underneath, after we found our points, it says we can list some other ways to describe this pattern. So remember, we started with down 2 to the left 4, right? But also we found out that we could have said up 2 and to the right 4, and that really means the same thing in this case. All right, so this graph actually this time is going up. It is increasing. It is an increasing graph. If you were walking on it, you'd be going uphill, which means that if we lose the arrows, our graph is just 2 over 4. It's a positive slope. And now the next question says, can this slope be reduced? And that's just thinking about this fraction in general. Can we reduce this fraction? And we can reduce this fraction. To reduce a fraction, you look and see if the numerator and the denominator can both be divided by the same number. And they can both be divided by 2 in this case. They have a common factor. So if we divide the numerator and denominator by 2, we get 1 over 4 divided by 2 is 2. So our reduced slope is 1 over 2, or 1/2. All right, so in example 3, we're going to talk about how to find slope from a table. So we're going to start with these 2 points, but instead of graphing them, we're going to instead put them into a table and see what happens. And this is just another alternative way to find slope. So my 2 points are 6, 2 and 10, 0. Now on the graph, we just counted and we moved from one point to the other. In a table, we are going to again find the change in the y and the change in the x, but I'm going to look at my y column instead of at a grid in the graph. And I'm going to see in my y column what happened to my y values. And you might notice that it went from 2 to 0, which means that we subtracted 2. And in my x column, I went from 6 to 10, which means I added 4. Okay, so how can we make this into an arrow pattern? So up or down means really, are we going adding or subtracting? And we are subtracting 2, which means down 2. And our x column we're adding, which means to the right 4. So I'm going to write here down 2, right 4. And that means that my slope, down arrow means -2, right arrow means +4. My slope is -2 over +4. Can this slope be reduced? Let's write our slope, -2 over 4. Can we divide both of these numbers by the same factor? And we can. I can divide the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. And we'll get -2 divided by 2 is -1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And there's my final answer, -1 over 2, which actually means down 1, right 2, or down 1, right 2. Let's just go up to our table and see if this makes sense. So let's plot 6, 2 and 10, 0, and see if we can use our slope. So 6, 2 would go here, 10, 0 would go here, and I'm just going to pick a point. I'm going to pick this one and use my slope to find more points on the line. So we said it was down 1 over 2, so that'd be right here. And again, if I wanted to find points the other way, I would just use the other slope, so up and to the left, and I would continue that up 1, left 2, up 1, left 2, up 1, left 2. And now I have a bunch of other points on my line. All right, that's it for this topic. So you guys should practice your homework. And again, we are in the 3A homework packet. That is the practice that goes along with this video. Good luck.